Last time I assigned the exercise. I have done that in class last time, so eliminate that as an assigned exercise. Last time some students pointed out to me that when I discussed the hydrogen gas the specific heat,他们说 I was wrong. It should go to 3.5. In fact, that's in the book because I forgot the vibrational degrees of freedom has 2 times 1/2 kT. 就是它的有translational energy 3/2, rotational energy 2/2, and then there's the vibration. The vibration should be 2/2, so it's 7/2. Last time we had the distribution. The Maxwellian distribution, but we did not write down what that constant is. It's a simple evaluation, and so I want to add that this is equal to 3 terms. It is the product of 3 terms in the x direction, in the y direction, in the z direction. And the constant is to be determined by the statement that the total probability has to be equal to 1. So that is equal to the constant times the integral of exponential minus 1/kt 1/2 mvx squared dvx times the same thing dvy times the same thing dvz, and those 3 integrals are clearly the same, so I can write this cube. So we need to evaluate this integral from minus infinity to plus infinity. And if I plot this as Vx, it's a Gaussian. So what we need is this integral. The key point about evaluating this expression is this. What you do is you replace the exponent, 这个指数写成叫它叫做一个 x， 然后你就可以把这个 transform 以后就变成这个 integral 乘上一个 something。所以问题是 how to evaluate 这个 integral. Does anybody know how to evaluate this integral? Okay, it's a very simple trick. It's very good to remember. Let's evaluate the square of this. 这个的 integral you can evaluate by squaring it. The advantage of this is that this becomes a double integral of e to the minus x squared minus y squared dx dy minus infinity. You may think, why do I do this? This is going backwards. We first factorize in 3, and now you consider 2. It's because this is very convenient to evaluate. You do this is the xy space. Dx dy means the area, but I can evaluate it change into circular coordinates. In other words, dx dy is equal to 2 pi r dr d theta. This small area is 2 pi r dr d theta, theta from 0 to pi. So I squared is equal to integral e to the minus r squared 2 pi r dr d theta. Theta from 0 to 2 pi, r from 0 to infinity. Right? Theta from 0 to 2 pi, r from 0 to infinity. But the integrand doesn't depend on theta. So I get, sorry, no 2 pi here. It's independent of theta. So d theta integral is equal to 2 pi. So therefore it becomes 2 pi integral 0 to infinity of e to the minus r square r dr. 这个妙的地方就是 you see it's r dr. R dr is dr squared over 2. So this becomes pi integral d minus r squared dr squared. And that's equal to pi. So I is equal to integral e to the minus x squared dx. This Gaussian integral is something that is known. It's very common. This is a good formula to remember. Once you know I, you know how to evaluate this constant. So the constant is m over 2 pi kt you may not remember this constant, but if you remember this formula, you can easily evaluate this constant given the fact that the integral of this probability has to be equal to 1. There is a derivation of Maxwellian distribution. This is so-called derivation, I'm not sure, was done by Maxwell himself. This requires some historical research to find out whether it was due to Maxwell or it was due to somebody else. But the idea is that the probability is a function of the absolute value of V because of spherical symmetry. But is also a product of the form of f of Vx times f of Vy times f of Vz. This is the second hypothesis, that the probability is a product of a distribution in Vx times a distribution in Vy times a distribution in Vz. Is an assumption. If you assume these two, you can prove that it has to be Maxwellian. Because this proofs require, I'm not going to go through this, but the idea is that the exponential distribution is a product of three terms, each of which depend only on one of the components of the velocity. And if you make that into an assumption that it's a product, then you can prove that it's Maxwellian. But this derivation is, I don't think it's just cheating. It has because why do you have this assumption? The modern view in the 20th century is that it comes from statistical mechanics. It comes from very sophisticated discussions, which I will not go into in detail. That sophisticated discussion for Maxwellian distribution for an ideal gas can also be applied to a non-ideal gas. The Maxwellian distribution is only true if the molecules do not collide with each other. If they do collide, then that's called a non-ideal gas. It's a real gas. And the modern statistical mechanics view gives you not only the Maxwellian distribution for an ideal gas, it also gives you the correct distribution for a non-ideal gas. So it's more advanced. But it was Maxwell who first guessed this Maxwellian distribution, so it's named after him. Now we go to the next chapter, chapter 21, the second law. I do not understand why the book presents the second law in the way that it's presented. Starting from the second law, there is a beautiful series of arguments which I'm going to present, which leads to the fundamental concept of temperature, absolute temperature, and the concept of entropy, etc., etc. It's one of the great achievements of 19th century physics. And for some reason, the book presents it in a very confused fashion. So you can look through the book, but I'm going to give you a different way of presenting the second law and the concept of entropy, etc., etc. a British physicist named Thomson, later Lord Kelvin, was one of the great contributors to the second law of thermodynamics. Another great contributor was Clausius. I could not find his date of year of birth or death in the Webster dictionary. I have to go to consult a bigger encyclopedia. Lord Kelvin was by far the more famous theoretical physicist among the two. He actually was some 8 years older than Maxwell, and he was precocious. 他是天才. So at a very early age, he already became a professor. And Maxwell, in studying electrodynamics, wrote to Thomson, asking Thomson to tell him what books to read, what articles to read. This was a very famous letter. And Thomson replied, evidently given a list of references for Maxwell to read. Unfortunately, this letter from Thomson to Maxwell cannot be found anymore. But Maxwell did study those articles that Thomson told him to read, and then within the next 10 years, he wrote 3 articles which founded modern electrodynamics. Kelvin did not make another major contribution. Kelvin's papers before Maxwell were very important. In particular, you will learn about the Stokes theorem. Stokes theorem was actually partly invented by Kelvin. Kelvin is Thomson. Stokes theorem became very important in electrodynamics, but even more important in the 20th century, because it is the soul of differential geometry. 它可以说是微分几何的灵魂。So this is another example of the deep relationship between mathematics and physics. 你们大概知道，陈慎身先生passed away last Friday. His great contribution was in global differential geometry, and his great contribution was largely due to the fact that he developed an idea called exterior differential form. The exterior differential form is deeply related to Stokes theorem, which you might say was invented by Thomson and Stokes and influenced Maxwell. Lord Kelvin later became a lord because he was the one who established the first under-the-ocean telegraph line. He established a telegraph line between Great Britain and the United States, and that was, of course, of tremendous importance in those days in the field of communications. And he also became very rich and became a lord. He lived to a very ripe old age. He died in 1907, and he continued to be active in theoretical physics. So if you ask somebody in the year 1900 who were the greatest living theoretical physicists at that time, I think it's likely to be Kelvin and Lorentz. That was, of course, before Einstein became famous. If you read different books, different people state the second law in different forms. I would like to state it as follows. One cannot convert heat into mechanical energy without changing something else. We all know that you can do the reverse. You can change mechanical energy into heat without doing anything else. How do you do that? 你拿一个很重的东西一撒手掉下来了，掉下来的话，它的 potential energy 就降低了，砸到地下就把地下变热了，所以就变 heat 了。所以从 mechanical energy 变成 heat 是非常容易的事情。我们整天都做，任何一个 friction 都是把 mechanical energy 变成 heat。这 second law 说是这个反过来的 process 不能够做。你也可以加一句话，跟这其实是一样的。One cannot convert, one cannot transfer heat at a lower temperature T2 to heat at a higher temperature T1. Again, the reverse is easy. You can easily transfer heat from a higher temperature to a lower temperature. 你把它放在一起，它就 heat 就过去了。可是 you cannot go back. The great achievement of the 19th century physicists was that they recognized that you cannot do this, you cannot do the first thing, you cannot do the second thing. Is obvious almost to everybody. But the great achievement was to convert these very simple statements into quantitative concepts. Two important quantitative concepts. One, the absolute temperature, the other, entropy. I had said earlier that temperature T, the small t, can be measured by a thermometer. But that's not absolute, because such a measurement would be different between one thermometer and another thermometer. The great achievement was to recognize that because of these two statements, there is an absolute temperature which can be defined. And after that, there's the second great achievement of defining a quantity called entropy. Next, we discuss a Carnot engine or Carnot machine. This was discussed by Carnot early in the 19th century. It came from what I told you before. People were trying to convert heat energy into mechanical energy, like in a steam engine. And they kept on trying for the same amount of heat energy. They want to get the maximum amount of mechanical energy. For example, 一个火车头 a locomotive converts heat energy into mechanical energy. So they want to have a more efficient locomotive. And indeed, the locomotives become better and better. It consumes less and less fuel, and yet it can go faster and faster. But eventually they realize there's a limit to this improvement of efficiency, and that's in fact the reason for the understanding of the second law. The Carnot cycle we will consider a PD diagram. It operates between two temperatures, T1 and T2. It goes through 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. At T1, input heat Q1. So it goes through an isotherm. This does not have to be an ideal gas. It goes through and expands. Then the second step, where does it get this heat? You can have what is called a heat bath. Heat bath 就是一个极大的一个 heat reservoir. It has an infinite amount of heat in it. So when this gas is in thermal contact with it, it can draw heat from the heat bath. But the heat bath is so large that giving away a finite amount of heat doesn't change the temperature. It doesn't change the temperature of the heat bath. In the second step, it goes down. It's an adiabatic process. An adiabatic expansion. So no heat transferred. 第三步是 at T2 一个 lower temperature. No heat transferred, cools. 因为它 expand， 所以它就，假如你把一个 gas 是冷的时候，是 adiabatic， 你让它 expand， 它因为它做了 work， 所以它就冷下去了，所以这就是这个图上所画的。At T2, compress the gas at fixed T. You compress 的时候 it will become hotter. 假如你不把 heat 给 remove 掉， 所以你一面 compress， 你 keep that at a constant temperature， so you remove heat。remove heat 我们叫做 Q2。remove Q2 的 absolute， 所以是 input heat RE input heat Q2 less than C。第四步 adiabatic compression， no heat transfer。temperature 从 T1 go to T2。The system go back to itself. So what's the net result? The net result is that some heat has been drawn from the T1 heat bath, and part of it is given to the lower temperature, T2, and there's a net work. Net result 是什么呢？是放进去了 Q1 在 T1， 然后出来了 Q2， 出来了 absolute Q2 是 negative， 就在 T2， 然后有个 W， 有个 work， 这 work 是什么呢？是等于 Q1 减掉 absolute value of Q2 等于 Q1 加上 Q2， 因为 Q2 是负的，所以这 energy 是 conserved。你进来是 Q， 这是 first law， 进来是 Q1， 出去是 Q2 跟一个 W。这个 W 没有 temperature 的关系，你那个东西，不管你是放在多么的temperature， 它的 potential energy 永远是mgh。reversible and irreversible. Reversible Carnot machine. This is an idealized system. 一个真正你要做一个 Carnot machine， 它不 idealized。不过你 assume 你这中间的 machine 都你 you can try to make the machine more and more reversible by doing it very slowly and by eliminating all frictions. So that's a limiting concept. 那是什么意思呢？就是说，我们刚才这 machine 啊，是从高的温度把 heat energy 拿来，一部分给了低的温度，剩下来的就变成了 work。所以这个 machine 就好像是一个火车头，火车头在烧了煤，它这出了 T1 在 Q1 在一个高的温度，然后 drive 那个 engine forward， 所以就有个 W。不过呢，假如是一个 reversible machine 呢，你可以倒过来，那就是从低的温度加上一个 work， 变成了一个高的温度的 heat。那么experience 告诉我们，你不能做到完全 reverse 过来。不过你可以做得越做越好。所以这 limiting 的一个 idealized case 就变成一个reversible 的Carnot machine。 假如你要想这样讲，你也可以说是有一个 idealized Carnot machine 这个 concept in some sense 也是 second law 的一部分。假如你一定要讲logic 的话，perhaps you need to add this, but that's not important. The spirit of the second law and its power does not reside in your axiomatic discussion. What I mean is the following. 因为 by the beginning of the 20th century, there were many people who tried to axiomatize thermodynamics. 我认为这个 it's not a very useful thing, because physics is about the reality. Reality is very complicated. It's not like Euclidean geometry. You can axiomatize. So if you want really to be absolutely logical, you have to state many things before you can be completely sure. So axiomatizing, the idea of axiomatizing physics, in my opinion, is a useless thing. The reason that there were discussions of axiomatizing thermodynamics was because at the end of the 19th century, at the beginning of the 20th century, in mathematics, through especially the leadership of the great mathematician Hilbert, there was the idea to axiomatize mathematics. So therefore, in Hilbert's 23 problems, Hilbert in the year 1900 gave a famous speech about the 23 important problems in mathematics, and that exerted a tremendous influence on 20th century mathematics. One of these 23 was to axiomatize physics. In my opinion, that is not the right direction. In fact, in the mid-50s, it was not this project of Hilbert's. First, around 1930, there was a young mathematician named Gödel who showed that the whole idea of axiomatizing the whole of mathematics is not quite the right thing to do. And that's a great development in mathematics, in mathematical logic, and in philosophy. Then, without having achieved the axiomatization of physics, there was sort of a loss of interest about this Hilbert problem until the 1950s. In the 1950s, elementary particle physics entered into a period of searching for the future. And some people, especially many people in Germany, in some sense was reviving this idea of axiomatizing physics. And that was picked up by a number of people all over the world. So it became, there was a field called axiomatic field theory. But by the 1970s, that died again. It's today, it's such kind of effort, such direction is not considered to be a useful way to push physics forward. So we are not trying to, we are trying to be physicists and not logicians in discussing physics. So we say that there's the second law, as I stated. We also say that we can imagine what is called an ideal reversible Carnot machine. efficiency. The efficiency of a Carnot machine is defined to be W over Q1. Q1 is the total heat that you use. W is the total energy that you gain. So that's called the efficiency theorem, or reversible. I use the word reversible and ideal interchangeably. All reversible Carnot engines between T1 and T2 have the same efficiency. Otherwise, if E 大于 E prime， 有两个 machine， 一个叫做 machine， 一个叫 machine prime。假如这个 E 大于 E prime， 那我就可以制造出来一个 against the second law。怎么样办法呢？其实很简单，就是这面是这个 efficient 的我叫做 E， 这面是 inefficient 的我叫做 E prime， E 是大于 E prime 的。我现在把一个 Q1 我把这个 inefficient 的run backwards。虽然它是 inefficient， 我们现在 assume 这两个都是 ideal machine， 所以两个都可以 reverse。所以我现在把这个 inefficient 这个把它倒过来 run， 那就是它出了一个 Q1， 我把这个 Q1 送到这个 efficient 的问题去，然后这面就出来两个，一个 Q2， 一个 W。那这一面呢是你得要倒过来 run， 所以是这样。是送进去了 Q2 prime， right？ 那我们看现在得出来什么结果？这是在 T1， 这是在 T2。那 T1 的时候的 nothing happened， 这整个的 machine 自己在里，这两个东西合在一起，我当做一个 machine， 这个 machine 自己在里头，所以跟 T1 没关系，它不要从 heat bath 来拿 heat， 它 net result 呢就是因为这个的 machine 的比这个，所以 W 比 W over Q1 是等于 E1 是大于 W prime over Q1， 所以 W 大于 W prime。所以这个 combined machine 的 net result 是 it doesn't do anything about the temperature 1, but at temperature 2 it has to remove some heat in order to give a net work because of conservation of energy。 假如你不相信的话，你就算一算这个 W 跟 W prime， 你一算的话，你就知道你算一下的 Q1 跟 Q1 prime because of conservation of energy， 你就知道 the net result of combined engine is to generate mechanical energy W 减去 W prime 大于0 drawing heat from bath at T2. The draw the down 就等于那 mechanical energy because of first law. 这个是 in violation. They violate the second law. 所以就 QED 了。所以这个 second law 就告诉你，说是所有的 ideal Carnot machine between T1 and T2 都有同样的 efficiency。那个 efficiency 我们叫做 define 做 definition E of T1 T2 is the efficiency of any ideal Carnot machine between T1 and T2. Theorem. Any irreversible Carnot machine between T1 and T2 has efficiency less than E of T1. 换一句话说，就是他们不能够 generate as much heat, as much work as 一个 idealized machine. Proof.这就是照着刚才那个办法，我们现在把这个 E 是 irreversible， 这个是 E prime of T1 T2， 这是 reversible， 这是 ideal。我现在把 Q1 在 T1 的时候，把 Q1 从这个 transfer 到这个，就是我把这个 reversible 的，把这个 ideal machine reverse 过来，这样子，那这儿就出来 Q2 W， 这是 prime 的是 reverse 是 ideal 的，这个出来，这个进去 Q2 prime W prime， 所以这个的 network done 呢，是等于 W 减去 W prime。W 减去 W prime 是等于 Q1 等于 Q1 1减去1 prime， 因为 W 等于 Q1 1 W prime 等于 Q1 1 prime。这个东西必须要 lesson， this must be 这 W 减去 W prime 必须是 less than 0， 因为假如它是大于0的话，那你就是代表你在这个 T2 的地方放进 heat 出来就 net 出来了mechanical energy， 这是 violate second law。所以这 must be less than 0， 所以呢，1是小于1 prime。1 prime 是一个 function of T1 T2。Everybody happy？ 这是非常简单的argument。好了。现在我们为了方便啊，不要用1了，要用 F， define F E1 E2 等于1减去1 E1 E2 ，sorry T1 T2。这个 for 一个 ideal machine 呢，就等于 Q2 over Q1。这个是很 trivial 的一件事情，不过呢，立刻就出来妙的事情。所以 between any two temperatures you can define a F function which is equal to Q1 over the ratio of Q1 over Q2。我们先看 F T1 大于 T2， 所以 F T2 T1 是什么意思？就是你要研究一个machine， 它是这是 T1， 这是 T2， 它是先从 T2 这样走，然后所以它是这样走，这样你就 follow 刚才那个 steps， 它是倒着走的 ，agreed？ 刚才我们画的时候 define 的时候有 T1 T2， 并没有讲 T1 是大于 T2， 我们的脑子里想的都是 T1 大于 T2。But 我们现在解放了，是可以 T1 小于 T2， 那就变成这样。这个其实就是在倒走一个。那么这个你的 Q1 跟 Q2 的 ratio 呢，就倒过来了，所以这张是这样。 By the way, W 就是这个 area。这我们讲过了，因为 W 就是integral PdV。Except 在一个情形之下，这个 W 是出来的 work， 但现在这情形是进去的 work。假如是T温那是什么呢？那就是你根本什么事情都没做，就向下 isothermal expansion， 然后再回去。你看这个图就是，那你结果当然没有 work， 没有 work， 你的 E 等于0，E 等于0 ，F 等于1，所以就等于1。那么这个当然跟这个也正对了，你把这个 T1 跟 T2 的一样的话，这就变成 F² 等于1，所以所以 F 等于1。所以这些都是 consistent。所以我现在来有三个 temperature。你可以在这个 T1、T2、T3， 你可以在 T1、T2 之间 operate， 可以在 T1、T3 operate， 也可以在 T2、T3 的 operate。那我说这个 that's obvious because it's the ratio of the Q's. So this is Q2 over Q1 absolute value. This is Q1 and Q2 the absolute value, the ratio. So 这乘出来是 automatically 对的。We now have the following result. There is the experimentally measured temperature by some thermometer, and there's a T scale, small t. But between any two small t, we have a function f defined by ideal Carnot machine. Then how about we just define a temperature to be proportional to F? In other words, which is a function of t, 只 depend on t, such that f of T1, T2 就等于就是你可以这样想，这有 Q1、Q2、Q3， 你现在就 define T 是跟那个 Q proportional。i.e. for a fixed gas, for a fixed ideal gas, ideal machine. Between T1, T2, T3, define T of T to be proportional to the Q, to Q1, Q2, Q3.这既然 proportional， 你还得有一个 fix 一个 scale， 这个 scale 你可以 fix 是，比如说是 you want the freezing point of water at 1 atmosphere to be 273度，或者是 boiling point of water at 1 atmosphere to be 373度。不过现在 international standard 呢是 take 这些都 approximately the same。现在的 international standard 是 take the triple point of water. Triple point of water 你就不需要 specify temperature pressure， 它是一个 fixed pressure fixed temperature。你 take 这个 to be triple point of water taken to be 273.16个 K。所以这一点固定了你就有一个 absolute temperature。What we said in the last half an hour or so took physicists several decades to understand. 就是 you might say the very simple statement of the second law is almost not quantitative. 就是告诉你一个 direction. 通过了这个 series of argument， 现在得出这个 absolute temperature， 这是一个 miracle of human reasoning。而现在 temperature 可以量得越来越准，所以所有我们现在所讲的东西并不是这个空中楼阁。When you want to measure very accurately temperature, you have to go back to this definition. Definition of entropy. — 好了，我们现在有一个absolute temperature。那么我们 consider 一个 ideal machine。在那个 machine 的 Q1 over T1 是等于 Q2 absolute value over T2。 因为我们就是 define 这个 t to be proportional to q， 所以 q1 over t1 加上 q2 over t2 等于0，等于 q1 over t1 减去，因为 q2 是负的，所以 for 一个 ideal machine， 这一共只有两个 term， q1 over t1 加上 q2 over t2， 这加起来等于0，这个。所以这是一个 lemma。Next lemma， Next， 假如你有一个 reversible machine， 这个 reversible machine 它 operate between 3个 temperature。什么叫 operate between 3个 temperature？ 就是它 draw heat from 一个 temperature， draw heat from 另外一个 temperature， draw heat 或者 give out heat from 第3个 temperature。而net energy balance 就是 balance by W。那么如果你把这 Q1 over T1 加 Q2 over T2 加 Q3 over T3 等于0，这个 Q 的 definition 是，假如它是吸收 heat 就是 Q1 就是正的，假如它 give out heat 就是负的。这个 definition 是这样，就跟刚才这一样。刚才这个是在 Q1 的时候它吸收 heat，Q2 的时候它 give out heat， 所以你这 Q2 是负的。我现在要证明说是3个的时候也是等于0。你当然看出来我这个目的是什么？我等会儿就 generalize， 所以200个 temperature 还是，所以就把那个 sum 变成一个 integral。这 proof 其实讲一句话就完了，它是 T1 T2 T3。现在我把它变成一个，我把这个 heat 把这个 engine 拿来加一个 engine， 那个 engine 只在 T2 跟 T3 里头，然后他把那个第一个 engine 的那个 T3 出来的 heat 或者进去的 heat match 这个新的这个 ideal machine， 所以其结果 T3 呢就不做任何事情了，不做任何事情所以就变成只有 T1 T2 了，那就回到刚才那状态了。那你们最好把刚才我讲这句话想一下，不，这个意思就是刚才我讲的，就是你现在这 machine 有 T1 T2 T3 各有Q， 有的是正的，有的是负的。你现在就另外发明一个 ideal machine， 另外想象一个 ideal machine， 跟它放在一起，是 such that 就是真正把这个 T3 那个地方，不管你是吸收好也好，放出去也好，真正把你那个 machine 把它 supply 进去。那这一来的话呢，那 T3 那个地方就也没有 heat input， 也没有 heat output， 因为它在 machine 里头自己转了一下，所以结果只有 T1 T2 了。然后你就算一下子这个结果的这个 sum， 这个3个 sum 就变成那个后来那2个 sum。可是那后来那2个 sum 是等于0，所以这也等于0。OK， combine this reversible machine with another reversible machine at T2 and T3, matching the heat input output of the two. Then summation of 三个 Q over T 是等于 summation of Q over T 两个 of the combined machine. 所以这必须要等于零。这个需要一点点计算，这连一行就算出来了。好了，所以现在有 theorem for a reversible machine. Integral dq over t现在每个 q 都变成小了，所以就变成 dq。好了 ，for 一个 reversible 的 machine operating between how 不管多少 temperature， 你这 integral 都是等于零。How about 是一个not reversible 的 machine？ 来嘛 ，for an irreversible engine between T1 and T2, between T1 and T2.这个为什么呢？因为这个 machine 它的 efficiency 是小于这个 efficiency 是小于一个 ideal machine， 所以它efficiency 小 ，F 等于 1 minus E， 所以它的 F 就比较大。F 比较大，你去算一下的话，就证明这个加起来是大于零的。Use the fact that the efficiency of this machine, of this engine, is less than E.我们现在不写小 t 问题，小大 t 问题的。这个你们回去想一下子，所有这些想都是 trivial 不过这个 reasoning 是我认为是非常之妙的。然后你再把2个变成3个，变成3个 temperature， 然后就变成无限多 temperature。所以 theorem for an irreversible process for an irreversible machine between many temperatures integral现在我们 consider 一个real gas， 我们把它当作是一个 machine operating between many different temperatures， 因为你画了很多线，它有很多 temperature。你就把它当作是一个 machine 在这样走，real gas in a cycle indicated in a reversible cycle. Between many temperatures, many T's. We'll start from 一个 point A。 那么根据刚才这个statement integral dq over t 这一个 loop 是等于0，所以 integral dq over t from A to B这样走，加上 integral dq over t from B to A 是这样走，等于0。那就是说是 dq over t from A to B 这个 arc 要等于 integral A to B dq over t 这样走。RE integral dq over t 从 A 到 B is independent of path, is independent of the path. 所以这就出了一个 fundamental concept 叫做 entropy。 This is defined as the entropy difference between B and A. This is another great achievement. So if you want to know the entropy difference between any 2 points, all you have to do is construct a path, any path between them adiabatically, not adiabatically, reversibly. 然后你就把那 dq over t integrate 起来，从一个到另外一个，你就得出来这个 entropy， 这个 entropy 叫做 S。is S 等于 entropy 是等于 a state function, i.e. a function of t and p for given mass. Except up to additional constant. Up to additional constant because in the definition is always the difference between two. 所以你可以随便加一个 constant, but 你如果加一个 constant 的话 then for every t 跟 p 你都要加那一个 constant. This is a great achievement of physics. And 这个名词是1875. The name in 1875, this name, entropy, was created. Entropy 不是 energy, 它们的 dimension 都不一样。因为 entropy 它是 dq over t, q 的 dimension 是 energy, 所以 entropy 的 dimension 不是 energy, 是 energy divided by Kelvin. 可是，在通常人的眼光里头，它有个 confusion. We say we consume energy. You can't consume energy because energy is conserved. Total energy is conserved. What you are consuming is the mechanical part of the energy got transferred into heat. So what you are consuming is negative entropy. We'll come to that next. So now we have a more precise definition of precisely how the world goes. The world, every system has an entropy. And because if there's no friction, then the entropy doesn't change of the system. But if there's a friction, or if there's a heat moving from a hot place to cold place, then the entropy keeps on increasing. 所以 closed system 就是说是没有别的东西，就只有它。The total entropy always increases. 关于这点we'll come back to this next time. Okay, I want you to go after this class. Go through the argument today. Every argument is very simple, but you have to appreciate what really has been achieved, and that's of great importance. Okay, goodbye.